first panel is What's Next to Accelerate Indiana's Tech and Innovation Industry. This panel is sponsored by Salesforce. Thank you for being here, Salesforce. So we have some big headliners to start us off. First, Governor Eric Holcomb. Governor Holcomb is the 51st governor of the state of Indiana, a lifelong Hoosier and veteran of the U.S. Navy. Elected by his fellow Hoosiers to a second term in 2020, he received the most votes for governor in Indiana history. He's been a champion for the tech and innovation community, from making record investments in broadband to establishing the Next Level Fund and expanding the venture capital investment tax credit. Under his leadership, Indiana's economy is strong and the state is making significant investments and advancements in infrastructure, education, workforce, quality of life, and public health. Governor? David Becker, who's already on the stage and has given you somewhat of an introduction on his own, but I will also say that he has had a 40-year career creating successful entrepreneurial companies in financial services, software as a service, and has created and sold 5 Inc. 500 companies. David also serves as our board chair and one of our founding members. Next is Toph. Christopher Day is the CEO of Elevate Ventures, the #1 most active seed and early stage investor in the Great Lakes region, and number 20 in the United States. He's also a chief visionary for Rally. He's an innovator, entrepreneur, business creator, community builder, job maker, and wealth creator throughout his endeavors over the last 30 years, having co-founded 8 businesses in 7 different sectors with multiple exits to Fortune 500 companies. Toph is also a founding ITIA board member. And finally, Ting Gootee is a seasoned venture development and community builder with in-depth experience leading and managing impact-driven programs across public, private, and academic sectors. She joined TechPoint as president and CEO in May of 2022. She co-developed the original vision and strategy for Elevate Ventures in 2011 and served as the organization's vice president of investment until 2014, when she was named the chief investment officer. Ting also serves on the ITIA board. Thank you, Ting. So I'm going to kick things off with a couple of questions. Governor, we'll start with you. So over the course of your tenure leading our state, Indiana has made incredible economic gains, as we mentioned. You weathered the pandemic, and the state came out stronger than many others. Year over year, we've beat records for capital investment and job creation. In recent months, your administration has demonstrated a clear effort to look to the future and attracting companies in emerging high-tech industries like electric vehicles, battery and microchip manufacturing. Can you talk a little bit about that and your vision for the future of Indiana's economy?
Sure, and I love to talk about it, and I won't filibuster here, but I do see some of the board members at the IEDC in the room, so Kristen, we've been working on this for more than months, years, right? Don't take me to task. But having said that, I mean, we approach this not in some profound way, but we focus on the basics. You want to, as Gretzky once famously said, skate to where the puck is going. And for a state like Indiana that's not, blessed or endowed with these natural gems like coastlines or mountain ranges, we hustle, and we've done that from the very, very outset. And when I think about what that requires, it means being true partners to industry and helping create those pipelines or those policies that are pro-growth, and learning from the individual companies and businesses what they need so that they can not just survive but thrive, and in this ecosystem called Indiana. And I think that's why we see companies like, and I could use, when you name one, you're going to leave 4,500 off the list. But when I think about, I was just talking earlier about Toyota as an example in a different context, but in 1997, Toyota started in this field of dreams down in Princeton, Indiana. They invested $700 million, 1,300 employees. Now Toyota is over the $6.6 billion investment, and 10,000 people go through that gate every single day. And so that only those investments and more investments and more investments over the decades or years. You think about the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, a test track back in 1909, and through innovation and through commitment and through investment and through partnerships with the city and the state, what it is today. And so I think cultivating this climate of innovation and partnership is what's key. And now we find ourselves very deliberately, when we go out all over the world, the economy is truly global, and we're trying to create the supply chains and the complete value chain. So when you mention batteries, we're not just thinking about production, we're also thinking about at the other end of it, the research to begin with and the production, but then the recycling aspects to it all. And so, and with semiconductors, and you just fill in the blank, but when we're talking about an auto, the auto OEMs, it's what can we move closer to the manufacturer and to where the research is going on. And fortunately, in a state like Indiana, we've been excelling at this for years and years and years.
So Ting, the governor talked about this global economy and clearly this kind of changing world and our role in it. It really is an unprecedented, digital age and a lot of new things every day. Tell us a little bit about kind of your role and TechPoint's role in how we keep our workforce, productive and ready and competitive, not just with other states, but across the globe.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jenna, for having me here. Such a power panel. First day of rally. Congratulations on the wonderful conference. And congratulations, Governor. I didn't realize I was sitting in your bio that you received most votes in the history of Indiana voting. That's quite an accomplishment. And I like how you frame it out as sort of Indiana's success so far and really heading into the future in terms of government and public and academic and sometimes philanthropic nonprofit sector having a partnership mentality with industry, really work very closely with industry to identify both gaps and challenges and opportunities and work together to address them. I think Rally today's, that's Toph's original vision for Rally, and this is, we're sitting here today not necessarily coming into a tech conference, but it is a cross-collaboration, cross-sector conference. That to me is really the biggest opportunity for our stay here, looking through the tech, not just through the lens or digital innovation, not just through the lens of tech standalone tech products and services, but through the lens of putting technology to work to really drive economic growth for all our key sectors in our state. You think about the digital impact that's on our economy, the numbers are really, really compelling. Globally, the World Economic Forum estimated 100 trillion value in economic value will be created by 2025 through a digital transformation. In the US, McKinsey's estimation is 10 trillion economic value will be created through a lot of productivity growth that's anticipated, that's coming from digital adoption. I think the question ahead of us collectively, what is Indiana prepared to capture that share? And I think our answer needs to be and should be a very significant portion. And that's where that kind of goes both into raising awareness through cutting edge technology, what's coming out of pipe, but actively working our industry partners to putting technology to work. And that's not just in the small startups, because we talk about tech innovation, that's very dear and near to my heart. Naturally, the first thing come to mind is startups. That's important. But companies big and small, Indiana, all the way from Toyotas of the world, Cummins and One America, and all the way trickle down to startups are actively transforming their digital imperative and driving economic growth. Why? Because think about this, and we're talking about digital adoption not just for the sake of cool and innovative, because it leads directly to productivity growth. Productivity growth leads to higher economic growth and leads to higher wages. And at the end of the day, McKinsey even made the specific, very specific declaration for everybody. Rising prosperity, that's higher standard living for everybody, not just people in this room, but for everybody in our community, can only come from productivity growth. That's why the power of technology adoption, I think the state has done tremendous amount of work in terms of raising awareness, partner with organizations like ours to drive further education, share best practices. And last but not least, I think case in point is manufacturing readiness grant. That was a very specific initiative that coming from the COVID pandemic need ends up being tens of millions of dollars going into our manufacturing sector, specific helping our manufacturing companies in our state to accelerate technology adoption. And like I said, the numbers or economic value creation opportunity ahead of us are very compelling, and everybody's racing to the game. I think we have a tremendous opportunity ahead of us.
Tove, our rally visionary, glad to have you here. So talk about cross-sector. We're ITIA is not just one kind of tech or software or SaaS or whatever. It really drives everything. And talk about the collaboration. You've played different roles. Ting's played different roles. Collaboration between academia, startups, corporations, and government, and how important that is to drive innovation. How can Indiana kind of establish and nurture even more these collaborative ecosystems to foster a thriving industry for the future?
Yep, thank you, Jennifer. It's an honor to be here. So I think now it's time for specificity, right? So I'll touch on a couple high-level things and go into some specificity, but there's no doubt in our minds that Indiana is poised and positioned to be the innovation capital of the world. We believe that because there's this phenomenon called the productivity boom that's occurring. It started about 7 to 10 years ago, which is basically today is the slowest rate of change that any of us will ever experience, right? And so it's all about the disruption of data and technology with all industries faster than ever. So if all of that's true, then how can we make a claim that we could be the innovation capital of the world? Well, we're already the racing capital of the world. We're already the amateur sports capital of the world. We're already the RV capital of the world. We're already the wood capital of the world. We're already the orthopedics capital of the world. I could keep going on. So we're already all of those things. Now it's cross-sector, disparate stakeholder, creative collisions, collaborations, and that manifests itself in being the innovation capital of the world. 7 critical ingredients: infrastructure, talent, mission-critical industry, technology, lifestyle, cost of living, regulatory environment. So now specificity. So how do universities and all of these different players play in this? So we graduate, number one, I would say talent that's second to none across the globe. Numbers-wise, we graduate the second highest number of undergraduate engineers regionally, only behind the Research Triangle. So there's all kinds of examples: IU, largest medical school, et cetera. So I think now it's time for specificity. And so I'll start at the higher ed, and then I'll go to K through 12. But in higher ed, for example, we have all these bright-eyed, bushy-tailed freshmen that show up on our campuses across the state every single year. And we teach them the university or the college chant and where the mess hall is, and those things are awesome. But I'm pretty sure this crowd would be more than happy to show up at those universities during that first or second week of the freshman onboarding and expose and show and share the innovation, the cross-sector innovation that's happening across the state. That's number one. People aren't aware. We must tell our story. I know the governor's recording these incredible narrated. Is it okay to share? He's got a war chest that he's stacking up of these awesome videos that are very specific and narrated about arts and education, talent, business. It's across the board. And so we need to more specifically, intentionally share our stories with our young people. If we go down to K through 12, having the money flow to the student, letting the student pursue the best education they can possibly pursue, school choice. These things are no longer just kind of things that we talk about from a stage. These must happen. These are critical. Crystal Washington talked earlier, the futurist, about we're teaching kids today in higher ed what we should have taught like 5 years ago. And so business is moving, it's accelerating so fast. And so to get the talent we need, companies they're starting to go to the high schools to look for the talent. We must do that as well as startups and scale-ups, not just corporate. We must do that as startups and scale-ups and figure out how to work with our governmental partners, how to work with our education partners to tap into that talent, specifically and directly and early and often. Another thing that we're doing, do I need to stop talking yet?
No.
2 more minutes? So that's an education. Breathe. Okay, so then innovation. So universities are highly innovative, right? Look at the things that Purdue is just as one example is doing. We talk about working with all the disparate partners. So hard tech corridor, right, between West Lafayette and Indianapolis, all the way down to Crane. Med tech corridor, the things that IU is planning, Purdue and IU in Indianapolis, Marion College. I mean, what some of these universities are doing is just absolutely amazing. And so we at Elevate are getting more hyper-focused on how do we really lean in to the students and the universities to be more intentional about plucking those entrepreneurs out of the university and getting them early funding. Think about how we funding the very earliest stages. And maybe they don't need $100,000. Maybe they just need 20 grand and get to another milestone and give them another 20 grand, right? And so just move at the speed of business versus the way of traditional venture capital. Venture capital has changed forever as well. So those are just a couple of high-level examples of specificity.
Awesome. David, we're going to kind of continue that discussion in terms of capital. Certainly, one of the most critical factors to growing a company is access to capital, and one of the things that ITIA advocates for every day is access to capital for all stages of companies. And the governor has taken some pretty significant steps for the state in terms of the Next Level Fund, VCI tax credit, that help in that area. But what do you think it takes to get us to that next level to really kind of hit the gas in terms of access to capital for entrepreneurs?
Well, I think the age-old story is success begets success. And we've had some great companies here in the state of Indiana that have done very, very well. Obviously, Exact Target into Salesforce, Don Brown and his little telephone company, now Genesis on the other side. I think that gets a star on the city of Indianapolis. We were always the flyover state. Nobody ever stopped here. They might have had to grab a different flight, but they didn't. VC just didn't come to Indianapolis. So the success we've had over the last few years is here. The efforts by the state have been phenomenal. When I started 40 years ago, we were all bootstrap finance. We had to find our own cash. We basically did it through receivables from our customers or friends, family, and fools is how we raised money 40 years ago. Today, there's infrastructure from Elevate is a tremendous seed program to help folks get off the ground. Every university of size, even my alma mater, DePaul University, the little liberal arts college in the middle of no place in Greencastle, is putting together funds to help students and faculty get programs off the ground. 40 years ago, it was Publisher Parish. Today, it's Innovator Parish. So the seed stage is solid. As Jennifer said, the state has also stepped up the game with the Next Level Fund. We need to get that refunded. It's about to run dry. We need that, and that's kind of the middle stage capital. And that's probably the weakest point in the infrastructure, I think, in Indiana today. There's a whole lot of sources to get folks off the ground if you got a great idea. I can tell you over the last 40 years, I've probably seen 800 to 1,000 business plans, and more than half of them were a solution looking for a problem, not a solution to a problem. So if you want to raise money, have the solution to a problem. Have a customer, have an opportunity, have that alpha program kind of off the ground. It's pretty easy to get started. It's that next step up when you're kind of cruising, still probably losing some funds. That's where Elevate will come in. That's where the Next Level Fund. We have, I think it's up to 12 VC funds based in the state of Indiana today. 40 years ago, there wasn't a one. So it's come a long, long ways. I will tell you, for the entrepreneurs in the room, you always hate to hear this, we're in a very dry cycle at the current time. If you don't have a path to profitability, right now is not a great time to be raising money. So knuckle down, get the programs running, maybe pull back a little bit on the marketing spend and the soft dollars, and really get that drive and show that you can create wealth and earnings on the bottom line. But we have programs that never existed 40 years ago, and the state continues to add more and more. If you're hitting a home run, obviously the success of Exact Target. We took the bank public back in 2013, and since that point in time, we've raised $250 million in capital. People will come to the state of Indiana today. We have the track record, as the governor's well outlined, to get people interested in what's going on here. The big play when they come to Indiana, they see new ideas, new technologies, new thoughts. They don't see, as they do on the coast, Intel or Cisco repackaged for the 20th time. So it is a good time to be in Indiana, and there's a lot of great opportunity out here. But you really got to hone in on the business. And right now, with interest rates where they're at and what the Fed's doing and all that crazy stuff, you got to really start focusing on profitability as well as growth.
Governor, turning to you, studies show it's new businesses that drive net new job creation and fuel economies, because typically existing and large corporations shed jobs at about the same rate that they create them. So what's this state doing to encourage entrepreneurship and help in the creation of new businesses?
Well, as David just said, I'm glad that we joined the fools. The government got in the business. Friends, family, fools, state government.
I wasn't going to pick on
Right, yeah. Well, I think first and foremost is to not lose sight of the fundamentals. Again, that in the state of Indiana, when we're making a pitch, whether it's to a small enterprise or to a global, international company that's doing business on multiple continents, we have to hone in on three basic assets. And that one is cost, low cost. Two is high talent or access to it. And the third is great sites, an abundance of them that you get to select from. So that's speaking to what you rattled off. You had 7 or 10 criteria, but the fundamentals of cost of doing business, speed at which it is able to occur or not, those are all that's in a competitive, scenario where people are making decisions based off of that ultimate ROI. And I think that's part of the reason, again, that we're experiencing some of this momentum. Secondly, yes, what I love about the state of Indiana and what I don't see in other places and what we hear from some of our investors is the collaboration, the real collaboration that a state and a local community are working harmoniously or in unison with one another. They're getting the same answer from each. And that is, again, tethered to that local business that we're trying to woo or court or help grow, by the way, the companies that are already in the state of Indiana and blossom. That's a critically important component, and the IEDC is kind of center to that all. That is our mission, to be a concierge for those small businesses, to have the portal of which to connect IND. You go there and there's a whole suite of services that you can tap into. And then lastly, what I would say is when the decision's being made, it oftentimes anymore comes down to people have options of where they want to go to school, where they want to live. And we've got to attract the talent to a specific place where they're going to hopefully grow a strong family, which grows a strong community, which grows a strong business and state, et cetera. They all play off of one another. But making investments in places that used to not be so obvious, clean water initiatives around the state of Indiana, or acquiring more state park property, or healthier forests, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All these investments that trails that used to seem kind of, oh, that'd be nice, or they did that somewhere else. I'm not saying we go out and buy a bunch of Ferris wheels, although I would like to have one downtown, but what I'm saying is quality of place, amenities matter. And oftentimes, they're the start of a decision, not the end. And so when I'm sending out those videos to CEOs all over the world, oftentimes they know what our tax and regulatory environment is. What they don't know is everything else that we offer and where their employees, where will that place of employment be sticky? And so questions like, where is the best golf course? How close is it? Or what are the museums like? Or do you have a symphony in Indianapolis? Or direct flights, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So all those things matter. We have to make investments. And I think that's why, while we were a great state to be in 40 years ago, it's a different state of affairs and the way we conduct our business. And the future looks bright because of it.
Well, and aside, you've done a great job telling our story, telling the state's story. And in 2018, when we launched, we did a kind of survey among all of our new members and what are the things that you want to do, you want to see the state do. And frankly, of course, it was capital and all these sorts of things, but the number one thing that all of our members said was, we want Indiana to tell its story better. Like, we're here for all of these great reasons. We have people who came from the coast who want to be here, and this is where they grew their business. And so I think over the past few years, we've done a good job in the IEDC, ads that they're running, the IDDC's investment that just got locked in this last session. So anyway, I think that's exciting, and just want to commend you that I think your administration listened among many agencies and has really helped.
Listened and then acted,
Yeah.
most importantly. Thanks, Jen.
Ting. So TechPoint, a lot of your mission is figuring out the talent pipeline. You do a lot of studies on it and also extern programs and other things.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that? And also, which I saw in the news this morning, a new story about AI and the impact in colleges and variety of things. Can you give us a little bit of a forecast of what to expect and how we fit in?
Yeah, absolutely. I like how the threads continue to go back to talent, because clearly there's a strong and shared common understanding around the importance of talent as a both in terms of a source of growth for our economy, but also a competitive edge that we as a community seek to build over time. And by the way, speaking to Indiana's quality as a place really to call it long-term home, I've been a very proud Hoosier by choice for 22 years now. As an immigrant, I very much can relate at a personal level what state of Indiana has to offer. Admittedly, not the first thing that would pop into my head when I was 22 plus years ago. Once I planted the roots here, have not left since. So it's very proud Hoosier by choice, and love to continue to be part of a storytelling community here and to tell our own stories. Talent, Jennifer, as you mentioned, many of the panelists here mentioned, we all know kind of in the trenches in terms of the technology impact on the talent, the necessary skills that's required today to really succeed as a professional, but for our economy. I mean, think about it, the AI in particular, 20 or 30% of our work time that people spend on jobs is projected to be automated by some kind of a technology, largely around AI, in the next decade or so. So how do we framing the talent issue? I like to think of talent issue rather than looking at it as a labor shortages, because that's looking at the issue as a challenge is more as the opportunities, right? The economies are going through economic transformation. Companies, big or small, are going through digital and business transformation, resulting to the need in response to the industry and business needs, resulting to the need for the workforce to go through workforce transformation. So that's really, in terms of a skill alignment base, and Jennifer, you mentioned in terms a lot of work that TechPoint do. One, we're very proud of the fact, again, I can't take personal credit for any of the work we do on talent side. We have a wonderful leadership team. I'm relatively new to space, but I learned a lot the last 16 months. We have taken a very holistic approach, I think for the first time, that addressing the talent pipeline issue, really recognizing the fact it really starts early, and it really takes multiple partners and needs to be driven by data. So specific strategies, and then last but not least, what success look like. From a tech talent development perspective, we set very explicit goals. You think about the historical tech growth or tech job growth and tech worker growth in the state of Indiana has roughly been about 2% a year. And what success would look like if we can double that rate, which is, by the way, going from 2% a year to 4% a year by 2030, then we call it a community win. And that translates into very specific numbers. About 41,000 workers we're trying to add to our tech sector or tech worker workforce. And guess what? Last year alone, instead of growing 2% a year, our community has actually grown 5.6% a year. So we're actually overachieving our goal. And I think that's a testament to the strategy that's working, this 4-pillar strategy around aligning skills from between what industry needs versus what education partners are providing. Again, back to Toph's point earlier about business moving so fast, and skill we teach today can't be our higher institution can't be the one that the industry needs 5 years ago. And the second piece is really trying to expand talent pipeline pathways beyond just traditional higher ed education systems, and going from, that's why we stood up trying to lead a way around adult apprenticeship and youth apprenticeship in tech. You think about the technology industry as very conducive to identify the skills that you need. With or without a college degree, you can still get into the roles, be trained, get into the roles that fulfill those needs. And the third piece is really around trying to enable partners, and we recognize a lot of work we do from a direct impact standpoint. For our own programmatic standpoint, it has impact, but in order to reach the bigger community impact, got to really work with partners. And we have all the way from K-12 to higher ed institutions to industries. We have well over a dozen talent partners, including the most recently, the Infosys Foundation USA came in and worked with us and IPS schools and Next Tech to really focus on K-12 tech skill set education. And last but not least, in supporting all the STEM initiatives that's around higher ed education. It's higher education, like all of us, are going through its own transformation, including how to respond to tomorrow's workforce needs. And the recent IUPUI, all the STEM initiatives that's happening, particularly around IU and Purdue realignment for Indianapolis, presented tremendous opportunities. So those are just some strategies. I'm very proud of the fact that we're able to be part of the community here, and still start to see very preliminary but very encouraging results.
Great. And so going to continue on talent, which we spend a lot of time on, and it did make me want to give a shout out to Megan Glover, who is also an ITIA board member, but she sits on the governor's workforce cabinet, CEO of 120 Water, and so she spends a lot of time also trying to help in many capacities in that space. But David, education, since the first day I met you, you said that's what you're most passionate about, education. What are some of the things that you think we need to do in the education system to train the workforce for tomorrow and be prepared for this economy? Thank you, Toph. Nice save.
I think I just got an idea for a new business here. Design a microphone that when your hand sweats, it doesn't get slippery.
And once an entrepreneur, always an entrepreneur,
Yeah,
very
exactly.
action-oriented. Yes.
We'll have that plan written by the afternoon and funded by tomorrow. As Jennifer said, education is a passion of mine, primarily because of my 40 years of business. 99% of the resources and the assets I had in my business was individuals. It's all intellectual capital. Part of the reason I'm a banker is because bankers didn't understand how to finance software as a service, or a company that didn't have hard assets, or God forbid you try to get financing on a computer that was obsolete the day you installed it. So it's been a tough program for me over time, and I think the educational play is the real secret to our success. As the young lady said, Crystal Washington, this morning, it's all intellectual capital that's coming. You take she's kind of picking on the lawyers. I'll pick on the bankers. I think our reputation in the marketplace today is somewhere down below lawyers at the current time. And we have to bring the students in, get them exposed to it. We bring in summer interns. We kind of copy a few things after the Orr Fellowship program we started years ago. ago. But at the end of that summer, we have 11 individuals that, 1, like banking, 2, love Indiana, and 3, I think we're going to get probably 9 out of 12 to stay in Indiana and do something here, whether with the bank or elsewhere. But we've got to invest. That is truly the future of Indiana. One simple program, and just to show you the impact. Years ago, the TechPoint for Youth Foundation was trying to find their purpose here in the state of Indiana. One thing we kind of glommed onto was robotics at the not necessarily high school level. We went down to junior high and middle school level. And I got to tell you, the success of that program is staggering. Over 50,000 children participated in the robotics program all across the state of Indiana last year. Over 50% were minorities and females. And you see these little 6, 7-year-old gals with a soldering iron putting transistors together on a board. Don't get in their way. They're going to burn your hand. They're just machines, and they love it. They're after school. They're on weekends. They're in competition. And you want to see somebody get excited. When the girls' team beats the boys' team in some of the robotics battles you have, you'd think you're at a high school basketball finals game. They're screaming and yelling and the stuff that's going on. But this is when the people are impressionable. And that's when they learn, and that's where they get the focus to want to do something different rather than thinking, well, when I get 16, I got to go get a job and I'll do whatever. I'm going to drop out of school. I don't see the value. You make it fun, and it's one of the best programs we've got. And the Indiana legislature just this last year passed a bill that will take that program, give it the capacity to take it from 50,000 students in the state of Indiana to 100 plus. So just that little move in the formative stage of the play, and in the big scheme of things, the budgets or whatever, it's a drop in the bucket. But it took a lot of people to come together to have the vision and the ability to pull that off. And I think that's, as Topher said, and everybody on the stage will agree, that we have some of the best colleges and universities and some of the best talent coming out of the school. We're still a net exporter, particularly in the tech cycle of things, but it's here, and there's opportunities for them in Indiana, and we need to tell that story and get them engaged. And anybody in the room that doesn't have summer interns, you're missing a golden opportunity. Phenomenal talent, particularly in the tech space. Think of the projects and stuff you're doing. How many projects really run more than a 60, 90-day window? You can give them really good tasks. One of the things we charge them with every summer is when you come through the door, the first day they're there, at the end of the summer internship, you're going to make a presentation to senior management about something that you've seen at the institution and at the bank over the summer that you think we could do better. Doesn't have to be in your area, it can be anywhere. And I got to tell you, we saw 12 programs about 3 weeks ago, and we're going to adopt 8 out of the 12 almost overnight. The easiest one to solve, and the tech folks in the room are going to love this, they wanted a play area. We did have a pop-a-shot thing or something, the basketball hoop, so now we got the Golden Tee golf course, we got a foosball table and all the other good stuff, which is not a traditional in a bank. But I got to tell you that the staff, top to bottom, are just having a blast with this stuff. And it's just the ideas. And on artificial intelligence, we had a young lady that made a presentation, got feedback from management, went back, honed it, came back again with another special presentation. I mean, it's just phenomenal raw talent. And they see things that we don't see because we're in the weeds every day. And it's just an invaluable opportunity. And as Topher said many, many times over the years, you just got to show them the way. Give them an opportunity and explain what's going on. We do have tremendous assets, resources in play here in Indiana. And the educational system, we can't put enough money into making it better. It's too good not to be great. And I think that's, from my play, as I say, my number one resource and asset for 40 years has been intellectual capital. It's a given in my industry, but it should be in everybody's industry.
Thank you, David. I think that's, frankly, a good kind of closing for this panel. I will say that you can get a lot of aggression out when you need it on Golden Tee. If you have a bad call or a bad day, that's helpful. So I'll be over.
Actually, as a sidebar to that one, we got one that I didn't realize was Wi-Fi enabled. Apparently, 2 other businesses in our new building have them. So they're starting an in-office tournament. So if you're good at it, we're looking for ringers. Come by.
Okay, all right. So, all right, we'll wrap up. Thank you to this fantastic panel for kicking off our conference. Thank you. keep in mind some of those things they talked about for our lunch. We have about 20 state legislators who are joining us at lunch, and we can talk about some of these things and maybe what else we can do. So at this point, I will invite the panelists for the second session to go ahead and come up to the stage. The second session is Unleashing Entrepreneurship in Indiana and is sponsored by the Innovation Connector in Muncie.